Cumberland Gap Tunnel here. Cumberland Gap, discovered by Daniel Boone.
Welcome to Kentucky.
Those large fans on this side, we are now in Kentucky. Today, we are in Lynch, Kentucky, at Portal 31, which is an old coal mine that they have closed and turned into a museum and ride through the mine. Let's go check it out. Timeline of the mine here. Got safety posters here. This is just a portion of the mine blueprint. Different layers and tunnels. Life in a pony mine. Ponies over there. tour itself, it does last approximately 30-35 minutes. We do travel 7 different stops. Time starts in 1919, ends in 1960. Now the ride itself, it is very cold, it is very dark, and it will be very bumpy. For that, I apologize. I do try to make it as smooth as I can, but we are underground, we are in a coal mine, and we are on a track. So with that being said, get prepared. If you guys have any valuable items, the camera, the phones, the wallets, cash, whatever it may be, make sure it's secured or keep a pretty tight grip on it so that way you don't drop it out and run over it, okay? If you guys don't have any questions, thoughts, or concerns, I'll go ahead and press start, and we'll be underground in about 2 minutes. Everybody good to go? Sounds good.
All
right, great. Also, at stop 1, you guys do have a chance to get off this ride and walk out. Choose not to do it. I'm not saying you guys will back out or anything, but it's just a fair warning we do have to give everybody. That happens quite often. I hate to say it, but it does happen very frequently. And also, I'm here to, any type of questions you guys have, don't hesitate. I'm here to accommodate you all and make your tour the best I can. It is animated and it is pre-narrated, so you will hear it from the speakers on your left there. If they are too loud, you can turn them out and it'll kind of push that volume away from you or that sound away from you a little bit. But it does echo and it is very loud. So just so you're prepared and give you all full warning. But other than that, we'll go ahead and we'll get started.
Everybody in? And keep your arms and legs inside. Remember, safety first. As you can see from these posters, it's our motto here in Portal 31. Always has been since the mine first opened up in 1917. I'm Mike McKenzie. They call me Mac for short. I'll be your guide for today. Up front is our motorman. He's driven this route so many times that he could do it with his eyes closed. At the time, U.S. Steel was one of the biggest corporations in the world, and they needed coal to fuel their steel plants in places like Pittsburgh, Birmingham, and our first stop, 1990. We're going to take a little visit to one of the mines. His name was chosen from our showing, and he immigrated here with a lot of other miners from Italy and over 32 other countries. They came here looking for a better life.
Okay, Nelly, let's take a little break. Coming to America, it was a good thing I did. Even so, it was hard. So many, Mama, Papa, Giuseppe, Amelia, they are still in Sicily. I'm afraid I will never see them again. But my darling Maria and the bambinos, they won't have to live the way we did there. Back home, we work all day in the fields, in the hot sun. The bosses, the gabellotti, stood over us with guns, and each harvest, they cheated us out of the grain we grew. And when the wheat prices went down, we starved. They treated us like animals. Worse than animals. But here, in America, it's good. So what if I have to buy my own tools and capline? The work, she is steady. The mine, she is cool and safe. You see to that, don't you, Cantante? As long as I can hear your song, I know I'm safe.
Hey, Joseph, did your lights go out too?
Not to worry, my young friend. You see, they're back now already.
Sure enough, and I'll be glad when that permanent light plant's up and running.
Oh, yes, light is good. Lynch will be the first mine with electric all the time.
What do you say we have lunch together, Joseph? I'll come out to you, okay?
See, maybe there will be some lasagna from Maria for you. Once you have tasted Italian cooking, you will dream of nothing else. Life is good. Me, Joseph Marzelli, and mia famiglia. We have a house with electric lights. My bambinos, Tony and Mario, their stomachs are full. They won't have to do what I did. To leave home at 12 so the others could have enough to eat.
Fire in the hole!
See, life is bellissimo. As long as I am careful and shore up the roof so it doesn't cave in.
Fire in the hole!
And watch my blast so all goes well. I hope to work here a long time and maybe save enough money to bring over my brothers and sisters.
Fire in the hole!
Easy, calmare. It's all right. Aren't you used to that noise yet?
As we move on over time, our next stop, 2 years done, too. By 1929, it isn't just picks and shovels anymore. Now, there are undercutters to cut into the coal seam. It's a process called conventional mining, and it's got 4 steps. But let's let Joseph explain them to you. Today, he's training a couple of new workers, and one of them just happens to be his own son, Tony.
You too will become good miners.
A lot of miners like Tony and Henry came and went through this mine. Times got pretty tough in the 30s. It was the Great Depression. It was the worst in 1932 when we might only work 2 days and 2 weeks. But U.S. Steel gave us credit as a company store, the United Supply Company, and we all grew gardens. I think I heard there were 900 of them. So we survived, and finally the mining picked up. The 30s were hard in other ways, too. At the time, there was a lot of union organizing going on down here. But U.S. Steel wanted to keep the union out of Lynch. If you tried to join, they'd likely throw you out of town. But the organizers kept coming right back. We finally organized with the United Mine Workers in 37 and had our first strike in 39. Our next stop is 1943. Lots of things have changed. For one thing, the country's at war, and everyone is pitching in to help the war effort. You can hear the change. It's much noisier. The equipment is bigger, and there's a lot more of it. Underground telephones, roof bolters, coal hauling, and the latest mining innovation, the conveyor belt. Also, miners don't work alone anymore. Even old-timers like Joseph now work in crews. And several crews now work for a foreman. But safety is still our number one concern. That's what you're going to see first. Men installing Bradis cloth, measuring the airflow, and roof bolting, part of the safety precautions that are now an everyday part of mining. You'll see what I mean.
There, Ben. Hold it there. Okay. I got my side braced. You get yours.
Got it. Now let's test it. Hiram, how's the airflow?
Let me see. Looks good. I think that did it. That should be the last one we need in this section. This Bradis and the new fan should bring in enough air from the new tunnel.
Man, this mine's getting big. Hope we can get the air back far enough.
We can do it. We always have before.
Yeah, this mine just keeps growing. It opened because they needed coal to make steel from the First World War. Now they've got us working 7 days a week to get enough fuel for this World War. You ever think about that?
I'm mostly just thinking about putting my pillow under my head.
You done over there, Ben?
Roof falls have always been a major cause of death and injury. These new roof bolts are steel. They work like the toggle bolts you might use around the house. You drill them in, and as you pull the drill out, they'll spread out and hold the roof. They make the job a whole lot safer.
Hiram, can you help me with Sergi here? I'm trying to talk some sense into him. The knucklehead won't admit that joining the union has been a good thing. Ever since we signed with the United Mine Workers in 37, we've had better, safer working conditions, not to mention better pay.
Yeah, when you are working. We had 6 strikes this year. I don't call being out of work. Strike wages, good pay.
But now we got a chance of moving up. Before the union, there was no way management was going to let a colored man do anything but junk work. But with the union, I've got a chance. If I can do the job, I can make a better wage.
Hey, you stop here, brother. The union lets us have a say in our first. And when there's war going on, we all get to say too. Come on again. You hear the latest number?
Don't we know it? That's less than 3,000 of us now. And more are leaving to join every day. You know Billy Marcellus, Joseph's grandson. The minute he got out of high school, he signed up. He's on his way to the Pacific right now.
You know, I've thought about it myself, but I'm 38, just too old.
Not too old, man. The reason they won't let you join is because you've been a miner so long. They need you here in the mines. Somebody's got to provide the fuel for the factories so we can win this war. That's our job.
Got it. That one will hold for sure. It felt pretty solid.
They don't see the boat from last week.
Yeah, this is a lot better than the old post and beam method. Can you remember how hard it was to settle this post by yourself?
Oh man, what a backbreaker. But with these roof bolts, unless there's a mountain bump, they'll hold a lot of weight.
And we'll have a lot fewer roof falls.
So, Sergeant, you think we can set 3 more before lunch?
I'm game if you are.
See you tonight at the game?
I'll be there. I want to see that new picture they got from Gary. I hear he's something.
Boy, do we need it. It's about time somebody showed us what to put on. Then I'm beat us 3 games running.
You better believe we're going to break that streak.
You got that right. You know these 9-hour shifts are great. Now we've got time to do stuff, like go to baseball games.
Unless you're also stuck in the night shift.
But we won't have double shifts forever, not once the war's over.
Yeah, thanks to the union. Company never would have done it on its own. Shorter days, hospitalization, and good old UMW. They sure made it happen.
So, Blake, how do you like these new chicken bills? They sure be here, though.
You say that again. They're slicker than breeze lightning. They really get the job done fast.
They make it kind of like a factory, don't they? Just moving the coal along. All we gotta do is load her up.
And keep her fed. Hey, you folks have got to back up. We gotta get these cars out of here. Don't you know there's a schedule to keep? We gotta help win this war.
Days we was out on strike last year?
No, but I have a feeling you're going to tell me.
64. 64 days I could have been making money. I don't know how much longer I'm going to stay here. I think I just might join my brother and his family up in Detroit. The work's steadier there.
They have unions up there, too.
But there's a war on. You really think we should be stopping work to go on strike?
Good point. By the way, I heard your little brother was thinking about enlisting.
Bobby? He's been talking about it a bunch. He's thinking about trying to qualify for sharpshooter. He'd be good at it, too. All the squirrel hunting he's done.
Fact was, lots of miners weren't allowed to enlist during World War II. Mining was a protected industry. That meant you were exempt from the draft when your skills were needed for the war effort at home. And after November of '43, unions weren't allowed to strike. But the Ickes-Lewis Agreement gave miners some benefits, like a 9-hour portal-to-portal day. And it required the company, not the miner, to pay for tools, blacksmithing, lights, and other fringe benefits. But remember, the agreement also stated that because of the war, no strikes were allowed. It remained in effect until August 1945. As the years passed, The equipment is getting bigger, and Portal 31 is becoming more factory-like. Everything is run by schedule, and every man has a special job. Brakeman, mechanic, roof bolter, everybody working as a team. No more hand loading. Everything is becoming mechanized. Our next stop is 1960. 3 years before Portal 31 will be shut down forever. And there's a machine that's making big changes in how mining is done. It's a continuous miner. One machine that does the work that an entire crew did before. As with all equipment, especially heavy-duty industrial machines, maintenance is critical. And that's what's happening here. 2 men changing the cutting bits on a continuous miner.
I think that's got it. I sure hope the Brady learns how to stay on the top. He hits so much rock, he's wearing down these bits something fierce.
You'd think he would have learned that by now.
Oh well, old dogs and new tricks. Boy, Jim, I'm beat. Am I ever glad this shit's almost over? By the way, I heard somebody at Lynch say that maybe we're done with continuous miner in this section.
That's right, Billy. This section's pretty well mined out, so we're going to move it to number 3 heading tomorrow.
You know, my daddy and granddaddy first mined these sections, and now we're pulling the pillars out. I'm a 3rd-generation coal miner, and altogether we've seen lots of changes here. My grandpa Joseph mined by hand with a pony team. My dad and his brother mainly worked conventional mining. But by the time I started, it was machines like this one that did most of the work. And it seems like they just keep getting bigger and better.
And it's our job to keep them running. There's been other changes, too.
Yeah, like the pay. In 1918, when Grandpa Joseph started here, he got paid less than 50 cents for each ton that he mined. By the time he died in 47, miners were being paid hourly. I think it's about $1.60 per hour.
Joseph's out of black lung, didn't he?
You know, he worked in the coal mines for 30 years. Most of that time, they didn't know what breathing coal dust could do to you.
Yeah, a lot of miners got black lung, and we owe a lot to those guys.
You bet we do. Oh well, our shift's over. The crew in the next tunnel will be up and running any minute now. Time to get going.
As a matter of fact, that sound you hear now is the continuous miner work in the next tunnel. It's pretty noisy, so be ready. But don't worry, we'll be safe.
This isn't the end of our story, but rather the beginning. The mountain itself has a story to tell. A very old story. One that takes us back to a time before the mountains were here. Back to the very beginnings of our planet. Then there were no continents, no oceans. The young planet was a sea of molten rock, intense heat, and violent upheaval. But as began to cool, it also began to rain, and much of the Earth's surface was covered by shallow seas. Life, as we know it, began. Slowly, over millions of years, vast swamps grew out of the seas, and then giant forests of mosses and ferns, all competing for light. Plants and animals lived and died, sinking to the bottom of the swamps. They carried with them stored energy from sunlight, now held captive in this decaying matter, buried in mud and sand, layer upon layer, year after year, for millions of years. But the Earth was still young. Land masses were still forming, ever changing. The sand and mud moved and shifted, and as more layers were added, their immense weight created enormous pressure on the underlying deposits, which over time formed various types of rock, as well as other formations, some energy-rich in composition, huge pockets of natural gas, vast deposits of oil, and countless seams of coal. This mountain, Black Mountain, is part of the Appalachian Mountain Range, one of the oldest in the world. These mountains were formed as the ever-shifting continental shelves of what are now known as Europe and Africa collided with North America. The unimaginable pressure created along fault lines caused land masses to shift up and slide, one over the other, and as a result, mountain ranges were born. Black Mountain was born, reaching for the sky. So what was once beneath the swamplands now surrounds us. The tunnel we are now in once held a rich seam of high-grade coal. Time passed, millions upon millions of years. The Earth continued to evolve. Millions of species of plants and animals evolved as well. And man, with the abilities of reasoning and conscious thought, would begin to relate to the world around him. For thousands of years, mankind would use what was on the earth for food, shelter, and fuel. But with the birth of the industrial age came the need for new sources of energy, a need that would inevitably lead us to search under the ground, to places where vast energy resources have been stored through the millennia. The search for coal would eventually lead here, to this place in the Cumberland Valley, to Black Mountain, the source of a multitude of high-grade coal veins reaching from here to West Virginia. A search for the vast human resources needed to mine the coal would begin as well. Adventurous men who would be a match for the mountain, who possessed the courage and physical toughness required to explore the ancient depths of Black Mountain in the search for coal. Beginning in 1917, this area would become home to thousands of miners and their families. The first to come were native to the region, men who were already familiar with the challenges of life in the mountains of eastern Kentucky. Of these, many were also veterans of the First World War. Soon, thousands more would immigrate to Black Mountain from 37 countries, from continents around the world. those same continents that were formed when the earth was young, when the Appalachians first rose to the sky. They built a town and created a community. And for much of the 20th century, they lived their lives and worked here on this mountain. A mountain that would yield over 80 million tons of coal by the middle of the century. For some miners, Portal 31 was the portal to a new country and a new way of life. For others, it was the portal to prosperity, raising their children and grandchildren, some becoming miners themselves, some seeking other opportunities in the Cumberland area and in the cities beyond. But wherever life may lead them, they carry the legacy of pride and perseverance that was earned through generations of hard work and mental toughness. Those special traits that define the spirit of the miner. The living legacy of Portal 31.
Well, folks, that pretty much wraps up our trip through Portal 31. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know I'll never get tired of traveling through this mine. The last coal was mined here in 1963. After that, mining was done at Portal 32, higher up on Black Mountain. Altogether, from 1917 to 1963, over 120 million tons of coal were mined at Portal 31. About the time they closed Portal 31, U.S. Steel sold the houses to the miners. Many were able to buy their homes for less than $1,000. By 1963, Lynch had its first elected city council, so it was no longer a company town, but an incorporated city with over 1,000 residents. Today, most of the mineral rights and the 19,000 acres of land that were owned by U.S. Steel are owned by the ACIN Corporation, LLC. Mining still goes on in the region, but there's less room and pillar mining like you've seen here in Portal 31. Technology has progressed so that most of today's coal mining is done by longwall mining, strip mining, and mountaintop mining. You know, in the 46 years that this mine was open, it played a pretty big part in helping create the industrial might of America in the 20th century. It helped to win 2 world wars. The tipple here was once the largest in the world, and in 1923, the miners set a world's record for coal tonnage mined in one day. A lot of strong, brave, and hard-working men spent the better part of their lives in this mine. And it's been nice to have the opportunity to share a part of their story with you today. The Kentucky Coal Museum and Mine Tour is a tribute to their efforts. Now let's just sit back and enjoy the ride back to the portal. You know, sometimes when I live in this world, I feel like I am in the mine. They made their way into and out of the mine. Can you hear it too?
equipment. You can see the remnants of the old mine chutes and the way they transported things there in the background, in and out of the mine. Here's some mining equipment. And this is the part here that would chew and chisel and break through the rock and coal. Transport car here they used on the track to bring the coal from out of the mountain. And in the background is the mine ventilating fan, so that they could breathe air in the mine and get a lot of the dust and debris out, so that they weren't breathing up harmful air. This is Portal 31 Lamp House. Sign tells a bit about it. It was built about the same time as the portal. Let's back up and get a better view of this old building. It's very neat. Check it out. Very cool. It's almost like a museum in here. They have handcrafted and carved pieces of coal in different shapes and things. Here's an old lantern. Coal bucket. Down here they have an assortment of different bears. These are very cool. Some t-shirts. And they have some miner helmets and lanterns. You can see in the dark. Old outfit from a miner. His over outfit and hat. Looks like some knee pads and a belt. There's a picture in the back of a donkey pulling coal out of the mine. Different masks and safety equipment things that they've used over time. Here's some phones, boxes, so that they could communicate. Front street side of the lamp house, and And this is fire station. And Lynch City Hall. 1921. Little park set up here at the train station. See the painting on the side of the bear. Mine rescue training room was located here.